Good afternoon, Parichat. It's nice to see you here. Thanks for joining us in All in Recruitment. It's a real pleasure to have you and you taking time off to join us today. So a warm welcome to you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, very nice to meet you today, Linda. And thanks for having me.
And you've seen your profile and you've had a career of nearly 2 decades in various roles, right? So let's start a little bit with your background. You've led teams in-house and also in your consultancy, right? Parichat Haehnen and Partners, and you are based in Düsseldorf, Germany. That's a pretty impressive track record. And you worked in different countries as well, like in Thailand. You're based there for 10 years, and then in Singapore, and then now in Germany. Perhaps you can start by telling us something more about your background and what you do today as a startup advisor and business coach.
So I start my career actually in the hospitality role. And from that, it has developed to a different type of role. So I was working for the hotel. Then later on, it led to that I was working for one of the online hotel reservation. So it's a leading international company. And there I had started as an account manager, which is commercial and talking to the hotel partners. And from there, I've grown and developed my career within the company. And my last role, I was the country head of Thailand and other few of the Southeast Asia country like Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar. So as a head of those countries, I'm basically leading the commercial team, and that's why hiring people and recruiting has become one of my core strengths. So besides travel and hotel management and revenue management, so one of those things that part of my role. The other part is hiring and training and leading and coaching people. For that role, initially I was started as the first person from Thailand. And you can imagine that I was recruiting everybody. So build up the team from scratch. So that's basically what I did. And that's why I really find it important for the business leader to be into the hiring and recruitment. So it is part of the core business. And especially now when most of the business are tech, so people and recruitment, getting the right people to the company is so important. So I have developed those skills, hiring people, finding the talent, train them and coach them. And so that's more than 10 years that I'm into this recruitment. And I find that having the right talent is so important. So after I left Thailand and I moved to Germany, basically because of family reasons, so I moved here. And interestingly, due to the pandemic, it forced people to stay home. However, it has opened up a different kind of work and business. So I was getting into a business coach, which is came in through my network. And from that, I was leading and coaching many executives. From business coach, and I'm expanding to recruitment, where I use my digital skill, setting up the recruitment strategy, work with the digital. So that's how I get in. And then 2 years has passed, and so I had built it up my service. So basically, I am now focusing at recruitment. So I team up with a few people here in Germany. And also I extend my service into startup because startup is growing here in Europe. And so I use my skill and my expertise, basically work with the founder. Many of my customers are very early age of startups. So seed or Series A startups. So it has been now, slightly more than 2 years that I'm in Germany. And so that's how I get into recruitment and startup advisor.
It's excellent. And also because the startup scene is so vibrant today and there's so much an emphasis on the kinds of talent that needs to be in a startup because one, your value to a startup becomes immediately visible and you have to run a very lean team or you have to expand and scale really fast. So it's interesting how you've spent a couple of years now, you said, coaching, working with founders, and also being a business coach. So tell us perhaps some of the experiences that you've had in a startup environment navigating the pandemic in terms of recruitment.
Yeah, so because with the trend of the growing of the startup and the pandemic, I can see now that recruitment is done mostly by leveraging the digital. So different type of social media, different type of platform. There's also the recruitment by using a performance marketing. So there's more budget spending on recruiting, not just only traditionally via the portal or the website of the company, but now you can see there's a lot of advertising done even on Facebook, where you can see many companies advertising and hiring people. Also, employers branding become really strong. So the applicant can see the company culture or how the office look even before they're getting to the interview. So this is really new. And also many companies also start doing like a video and posting around how the working day look like. So this is I think it is go together with the pandemic, that the digital is become much more relevant. And also the growth of the startup. Yeah.
Something you said that was really interesting was that the use of performance marketing in recruitment. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit on it?
What I mean is the investment from the recruitment into the marketing that you can measure. Example, like of the social media. In the past, those kind of marketing would go on to product, right? So when the company want to sell product, then they will investment in this kind of channel. However, nowadays, we have the word like try to get the talent from their living room. So they're not really looking for a job, but it is pop up. Yeah. And interestingly, some also do a short questionnaire or a little bit of the game just to engage the talent. So that's happening. Yeah.
That's interesting because I like how you said you have to get the talent from their living room, because, you and I are both seated in living rooms at this point. So it is interesting to see how the point of view has changed so much that you're actually entering candidate or a person's private space and trying to appeal to them. And employer branding, as you said, is also very key right now. And most people looking for a sense of purpose, which brings me to the whole phenomenon on the great resignation, or some like to call it, the great attrition. It's caught on quickly in the past couple of years. We've seen so much of people moving from one job to another, just voluntarily leaving their jobs and choosing what they want to spend their time on. So in terms of the recruitment industry, as you see it, what might be the pros and cons of this? Do you see a wider talent pool? Is there a more cross-functional talent pool? And where's the industry?
Yeah, I find that, these years, especially the effect of the pandemic, it has changed the entire, recruitment and talent. So now employees feel that they can work from home and deliver such a great quality of work, right? So people find that, okay, they don't want to spend time on commute anymore. That's a time that is unproductive. And many part is true in Bangkok or Malaysia, people also commute a lot. So I think there's a pro and that for sure that employees were looking for some flexibility, hybrid work, and so that is a trend. So there are some downside of working from home because not everybody have a home that can work, right? So many young employees, maybe they live in the small apartment, don't have a right working tool or working equipment. So they would prefer to work in the office more when they really need to get some important tasks done. So there's a proper desk, proper screen to work on. So I think that is the current situation. So as a company, having a choice for the employees for them, that they can work wherever work best for them, and having a trust and having a good system to review their performance. I think that's the way moving forward. It's not an easy task. I can imagine, especially in the organization, to decide how to continue with this. I think for the young organization, maybe it's much easier to say, okay, we do hybrid, right? But for some of the organization with many people, and if there's some operation like machinery involved, so that still people still get to require to work in the office or in the factory, right?
So you mentioned something about the similarities between what's happening in different parts of the world. Like it can be the same phenomenon. People are looking for hybrid work in Asia, as similarly in Europe. But let's look at some of the developments in your region where you're based right now. You've had experience looking into that, real first-hand experience working with founders to devise that strategy. So where do you think in post-pandemic Europe, for example, everyone's in that recovery phase now, where do you think it's headed? And what should recruiters be looking out for in the next year or two, perhaps, in terms of trends?
Yeah, in terms of trend, I think the recruiter will actually become really, really challenging job, because the talent become as well very, very, very shortage because of the growth of a lot of startup and the tech company, and many company will become much more competitive to get the talents, right? And for the recruiter, the job will become much more challenged, I would say. And therefore, I think for the recruiter to use much more tools to help to do a better job. So that's starting from building the right funnels and then managing through the whole process to get the right talents. And that really it is a big task for the recruitment team, I believe. Yeah,
you brought up a very important point, which is the usage of more tools in the recruitment process itself, and transitioning that from a manual-based work schedule, work processes, towards automation. So in that sense, what impact do you think these technologies or these tools would have on the recruitment process if applied?
I think nowadays the work of the recruitment become much more complex. And as we would just discuss the dynamic and the changes of the talents and how to find the right talents, it's become much more complex. The fact is the recruitment still dealing a lot with the manual work. Spending a lot of time, try to do here and there, try to, discuss, understand the role requirements. So a lot of time lost through many other things, which is not the recruiter not really have time to spend on finding the right talents. So therefore, it is important for the recruiter to use the tools. So starting from advertising the role, so leverage that digital tool, and then once get all the CV, then having a right tool to manage those CV through the entire recruitment process. So I think this is a must with this current digital world, and that will help the recruitment to be much more efficiency and much more successful.
Yeah, time to hire speed tools certainly come in handy. We see more and more people adopting tools such as the applicant tracking system like ours in Manatal. And on that note, many of the companies, especially in the startup scene, they're all tech companies, you should say. Actually, in fact, all companies today have to be tech companies in some form or manner, right? So what would you say might be the three top challenges that tech recruitment faces today? What do you think?
I think number one is the recruitment time. So the time from the vacancy identify until this role is filled. And I also see that the trend is of hiring time become longer and longer, and this is so worrying. In the past, you recruit one role, you get the CV, you go for 1 or 2 interview, and that person get a job. Nowadays, there's a few interview plus an assessment. So that means internally, the recruiter need to deal with many stakeholders, right? And also the longer process is take, does mean it is more work for everyone. And it is also not competitive. So the applicant could as well losing the interest already. And in addition to that, there's also a trend of having a few assessments before the work start. So that adding, so the average of hiring time become much and much longer. So that's a trend at the moment. The second thing is a challenge. I would say that the recruitment team or the headhunter as well have a lot of admin work to do. Also, if they need to manage internal and external, so if they need to work with the external recruiter, that is also a task that burning on the recruiter on top of finding the right talent. Finally, the last challenge, so it's one of those that I have been mentioned, is how to find the right talent, how to attract them at the right time and at the right moments. So which tool to use, how to promote the company and building the talent pipeline already, or how to still keeping them warm and perhaps get back to them when there's a right role for that applicant. So that kind of challenges, it is what is happening right now.
Yeah, those are very pertinent points. But what would you say might be a workaround for that? It's using tech tools would be one, and how should recruiters maybe think around?
Definitely, I think a recruiter got to be try to find the tools that will help them. Nowadays, there's many tools and the different steps through the hiring. So finding the digital tools that will save a lot of time and improving efficiency. That definitely it would be my tips of making the best out of the recruitment.
So talent, as you said, they are everywhere, and especially in the tech scene, they may not necessarily be in one location. So more companies are looking for international talent. With hybrid work, then you have hyper connectivity, etc. How should recruiters be thinking about hiring the right talent internationally?
So, beside getting the talent, then acquire the knowledge of how to integrate the new international team members into the company. So that kind of skill that the recruiter to get more international talent into the company. Yeah,
that's on the recruiter side. So there's so much that we spoke about that a recruiter should do in terms of making sure the right candidate steps in the door. Let's talk about the hiring manager in this instance. So in your experience, what might be the role of a hiring manager in making sure that right candidate gets through and stays? Any best practices you'd like to share?
Yeah, great. I really love this question because I come from two sides, right? Now I'm dealing with the recruitment, much more dealing with the talent directly. However, more than 10 years, I was a hiring manager. And nowadays, the role of hiring manager and the recruiter seem to be a little bit separate and, separate a little bit in many companies, especially big company. However, what I like to emphasize is that the success and the ownership of the hiring should be within the hiring manager, because the hiring manager know what type of person he or she want to have in the team. They know the business. So the hiring manager playing the big role of hiring. It is not just only recruiter or the advertising. So hiring manager should take the full ownership, I would say. And I could share some tips is that the hiring manager should already looking around the market, build their own pipeline. No one will build the best talent pipeline than the hiring manager. So what that means is that when you as a hiring manager, so you would have your network, you will meet the people, you will go on the network events or seeing how people work. You will see already that this person will be good for the company, right? And keep an eye on that before the role happen. And so the good hiring manager will have some of pipeline already for themselves, at least a few roles. We will not expect them to fill like 10 roles by having network already, but a few is a fair expectation. So that's one thing to take an ownership. A second thing is the hiring manager need to work closely with the recruiter to make things happen. It's a priority to be available for the recruiter all the time, as much as possible. They need to work as a buddy to make things happen. And so just being very helpful as much as possible, that I would say,
Yeah, so it's very much a collaborative process and one that is very proactive on both sides, right?
Yeah.
So I really like how you said that, the hiring manager is the one who really knows what we're looking for, right? So then you go out there and you make sure that you are also doing a little bit of sourcing and you've got your own pipeline that helps in the recruiter's job, because at the end of the day, you want to fill something. So that's great. You've spoken about your great insights actually into the recruitment space today, and you've spent some years in there looking at recruitment from both sides as a hiring manager as well as someone who is with people who are hiring actively. So what advice would you give perhaps to someone who is starting out in recruitment today?
What advice I would like to give would be to just nail down your own expertise as a recruiter. So which area match with your expertise? If you come from a service sector or hospitality or medical, so understand your own expertise and your own competency. It would be nice to have build it up with some team member as well. If you could partner with someone, that would be great. So that will help to get things start off very quick. And second would be try to find your niche. So which market, what type of the company you want to service, if you want to do your own business, in which area, and understand a little bit of marketing, because you also need to market yourself as a recruitment service, right? And finally, have a great customer service. So customer in this sense, it could be your candidates. Have a great customer service with them. And another things could be as well your companies that you're working with, the hiring companies. So having a good relationship, then that would be one of the key to help to start off the business. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for those pieces of advice, because even people who are not from the recruitment industry, or people who are not actively recruiting but are serving within large organizations, understand what the back-end processes might be and how intricate the coordination is when it comes to actually getting a talent through the door, right? So thank you so much, Parichat. I wish we could speak longer, but we have to wrap this up. So it's been a great pleasure really having you on this show. Thanks for making the time. But I'm sure our viewers and listeners want to know more about you and maybe your company. So where can they find you? Which channels can they look up?
Yeah, well, they can find me on the LinkedIn. So just go Parichat Haehnen. So that's my LinkedIn profile. And then from there, you can also see my LinkedIn page. So Parichat Haehnen and Partners. I'm very easy. Just send me a message and I'm happy to help. And thanks, Lydia, for your time. It's been a pleasure to sharing my insight with you.
Excellent. All the best with your startup advisory consultancy and also the coaching that you do for businesses. I'm sure it will take off. And we have been speaking with Parichat Haehnen, who is the consultant at Parichat Haehnen and Partners in Germany. Do look out for our future podcasts and all in recruitment, and stay tuned for our next videos. Thank you.